Alright, welcome back. This is the next part. So we've done 2 on input, 2 on different raycasting, and now I'm going to start with timers. So, the classic use of timers is to use a repeated timer to make your gun fully automatic. So, by that, you can hold left click and your gun will continue shooting based on a fire rate. So, that's what we're going to do now. First things first, let's just change this back to raycast and go into the HUD and comment out this cursor stuff because we don't want that in this anymore. Okay, so right, what we're going to need is instead of using the raycast, we can make this not U function because it's going to be done differently. U function, so we're going to need void start shooting and void stop shooting. So start shooting, stop shooting. What else do we need? We're going to need timer. So F timer handle. Call it fully automatic timer. What else do we need? We gonna need a fire rate. To be honest, let's put this up here. Right, so the fire rate is going to be float fire rate. We'll make him shoot 5 shots a second, yeah? Initially. 5 shots a second. Start shooting, stop shooting. Right, so I'm going to need start shooting, and then on released, stop shooting. Okay. So we'll do void a tutorials character start shooting. Void a tutorials character stop shooting. Okay, so let's think about this. What we need. Start shooting, we need to start the timer. And I guess stop shooting, we need to clear the timer. So for the timer stuff we need world, as with literally everything in Unreal. Right, so we get the world. Sure you're familiar with that one by now? Yes. That's pretty nice. World, Now we need to call, basically you need to call it so there's no initial delay, but then you also need to do world get timer manager, set timer, fully automatic timer, this, what do I call it, tutorial, wait no, a tutorial character, so that's this class, we'll call it, actually no, maybe this does need to be a function, thinking about it. Now your fire rate is going to be 1 divided by fire rate, to get how many shots per 1 second, right? So that's that, and I think we need true on the end for basically telling this timer to repeat. So if I hover over this, don't know if you can see that, but timer handle is first parameter, object second parameter, timer method third parameter, start rate, and then the last one's loop. So yep, that's pretty much it. Now we just need to do as soon as you let go to do this basically. Timer manager. See, this is why you make the timer handle in the header, because alternatively, for a lot of timer uses, you can just do this, and then as soon as it goes out of scope, you don't have to care about it anymore. It just releases itself by the garbage collection in Unreal. But because we want to control this handle outside of this function, hence stop shooting, we need to store this in the header. But a lot of the times you can just make local handles. Say if you wanted to do a one-time event, you'd make the handle, call the function, and then it's... So yeah, I guess for looping, it's probably the more generic reason. If you're looping, you need a reference to the handle. Otherwise, you probably don't. Okay, so there's that. And that's honestly probably it. I think that will just work. Or it might moan at the raycast actually not being a hue function. Maybe. It's because it's on the timer, which is still a delegate but not the bind action sort of place, so not 100% certain. If it crashes, that'll be why. Or doesn't compile, not crash. Left of cleared timer. Still there. Oh my god, how did I miss that? Anyway, just to be safe, we should probably put that back. It's a good habit anyway, because the Unreal's reflection system, which is all that macro stuff above the functions and parameters, functions and variables rather, is just Unreal's way of making your code work. Because some of this stuff isn't standard C++, like it's not. You've got standard C++ and you've got like Unreal's version of C++. Like it's still C++, it's just their framework on top of it, which is why it's a bit different. Which is what most people find difficult at first. I know I did. When I started out, I just was confused out of my mind. It was like super confusing. But now that I've been using it for quite a while, a few months. Right, so yeah. So now if I hold it, to be honest, it's probably easier with the demonstrated with the projectile. The reason it looked weird was because of the effects. The animation. But hopefully with the projectile you'll actually see that it's shooting 5 times a second. And you can probably tell from the raycast version, but it's a bit harder to notice. Yeah, this is a classic Unreal error. Like what even? I don't even know. This is being triggered for no reason. Exception was thrown, access violation at some bad address. Object B. Whatever object B was, that's null. Object B is... You get object property value at B, void pointer, called identical, God knows what identical is called. I don't even know. This is just a random error that gets caused for no reason. I honestly am not sure about this one. But then I'll load it up again and it will just not crash. That's the one thing I don't understand about Unreal. You know, just randomness like that. It's like maybe PC ran out of memory? I don't know. So like it ran out of memory to store on the heap, so the pointer was like, I've got no memory left. and then of course becomes invalid. Maybe that's it. Could just be my machine. Although my machine is pretty good. Although, to be fair, Unreal does crash my CPU to like 100%. Not sure. Could be that. Anyway. But yeah, notice when it crashed in debug mode, it took me to that line, as opposed to just closing, right? So, I would recommend for debugging, run it from source. Right, something's not quite right. Something's not quite right. On fire. Oh, yes. Well. The reason I'm calling one right before I start the timer is because what I found out when I did this the first time was it wouldn't start shooting until the timer had like done one iteration, which made it a bit clunky. It felt a bit rigid in your shooting, so you had to like hold it for the 0.2 seconds and then you start shooting, which you could feel it, right? It was weird. So I've made it so you can just shoot straight up and then resume, like after the 0.2 delay it will continue basically. Of course this does create the dilemma where you can, if your fire rate's relatively slow, you can single fire faster because that happens. So you could add in another timer to prevent the single firing, which is caused from the straight up call to the on fire function. So you could put a delay, like you'd have a ball saying can fire above that, above the whole thing really, I guess. And then once you shoot, you can set it to false. Just over the function call, not the timer bit though, and that would probably sort it out. And then you could time it all up at the same time with another timer to trigger the ball back to can fire. That, off the top of my head, sounds like it would work. But you really need to do that anyway, because your fire rates, when you implement your fire rate, the whole point is you make it pretty fast, right? There we go. Not bad, right? It's pretty loud. The projectiles have a lifespan on them, which is why they disappear. But yeah, I hope that explains how to do continual fire rates. I'm going to cut it here and do another one on timer delegates, which is a bit more fancy. Alright.